good to be able to join you all. This is my third AAERI AGM, and I'm delighted to have joined alongside our Department of Education colleague, Matt Johnston, who is dialing in from India. Thank you, President Mahesh Tulasima, for the invitation to be with you all this evening. It's great to be among friends in the education sector, and my congratulations on this fifth AGM. I'm conscious that I'm standing between a group of hungry people and their dinner, and also a group of Anil supporters and fans who probably want to take selfies with him. So I won't use up too much of your time. I know that there are important things to do immediately after this concludes. But I wanted to say that I'm so grateful for the cooperation of AAERI since I arrived in Nepal 2.5 years ago. The association has played an integral role in ensuring the highest standards of support to Nepalis planning their study in Australia, and I'm so deeply appreciative for the way that so many of you have worked constructively with me and my embassy as together we face the challenges in the education space. For example, earlier this year, policy relating to education fares and the issue of no objection certificates. While I'm thanking people, I wanted to pay a very special thank you to our panellists tonight. What a rich discussion. And I sometimes think that I have the easiest ambassador's job in Nepal of anyone, because I have such great advocates for the relationship and for the friendship between Australia and Nepal in people such as those who've spoken to us tonight. So thank you for your very warm reflections. I also wish to recognise the respected consultants and agencies here tonight. Thank you for your work to ensure that genuine Nepali students are accessing quality Australian institutions for their transformative education experiences. And we've heard a lot about the importance of ethical recruitment, and I reiterate those messages. Thank you for upholding those standards. Time has certainly flown since my first AAERI AGM in 2021. I recall sitting in front of many of you masked up and with Australia's education services largely on hold, as we've seen in the photographs earlier tonight. Borders were closed with no end in sight, and for those Nepali students in Australia, welfare was a paramount issue. Universities were offering courses online, but these of course were not as popular to students in Nepal. And then we fast forward 2 years, and we've witnessed an extraordinary return to what we call business as usual in the education sector, with really high levels of students' interest in Australian study opportunities, and an exponential rise in the number of Nepali students travelling to Australia. But I would argue that it's not just business as usual for the Australian-Nepal education relationship and the services that are offered to Nepali students. Rather, it's better than ever education services. Australian institutions and the government itself has expended great effort in developing even more robust arrangements to support our international student population, including through welfare services and mental health support. In the past year, we've seen an expansion in the type and in the quality of education services and growth in Australia-Nepal educational linkages. Australia's credentials, as we know, are well established. We're a country that offers world-class education and the promise of internationally recognised qualifications and strong graduate outcomes. We've learned this year that 9 Australian universities are in the top 100 globally ranked institutions and 3 are in the top 20. So studying in Australia means exceptional educational outcomes as well as high standards of living and a great student experience, with 6 of our student cities ranked in the top 50 student cities globally. Recent reports indicate that Australian university graduates are securing full-time employment at the highest rate since 2009, reflecting the exceptional education offered by Australian universities and other institutions. Further, Australia is currently Nepal's 5th top partner country in terms of research collaborations. And since I arrived here in January of 2021, I've seen the way international student exchanges and cooperation in the education sector are the bedrock of our bilateral relationship. Our friendship, which now spans 63 years of formal diplomatic relations, is built on the most important foundations of people-to-people links. But government-to-government engagement is also vital, and I was delighted in May this year to be organising a visit for Australia's Assistant Foreign Minister to Nepal. It was the first such visit in decades, and importantly, Minister Watt's visit focused on our ties in the education sector. Minister Watts used his calls on Nepal's Prime Minister and Foreign Minister to emphasise the value to both Nepal and Australia of our educational linkages and to seek the government's ongoing support of this vital strand in our relationship. He underlined Australia's commitment to provide a world-class education to Nepali students, as well as safe and happy experiences of living in Australia. He spoke of the very deep affection Australia has for its Nepali students and diaspora community, and he emphasised that Australia encourages Nepali students to return to Nepal and to contribute to this country's development, so that what we achieve is a brain gain rather than a brain drain. He met with skilled migrant chefs, young Nepali men who, after 7 years of working in Australia, have returned to set up a fine dining restaurant in Bhaktapur. He spent an evening with a large group of alum from Australian institutions who are now leaders in politics, government, business, academia and civil society, and we've heard some stories of these people tonight. He also had a round-table meeting with Kathmandu University senior academic staff, some of them Australian alum, and he learned about current exchanges and collaborations and future opportunities. And I was delighted to see one of these realised just last week when I witnessed the signing of an MOU between KU and Australia's Crown Institute for Higher Education to deliver dual degrees in 23-24. Such connections are also evident, as we've heard, in the model that exists between Gate College, led by Ken Mackay, and TAFE New South Wales, and I do sincerely applaud Ken for being a trailblazer in this regard. In addition to these developments, there are, of course, the long-standing lifestyle and cultural reasons why Australia represents unparalleled opportunities for Nepali students. Australia offers Nepali students a home away from home. We know from Australia's 2021 census that the Nepali community is the fastest growing migrant community in Australia, having doubled to around 130,000. And of course there are currently over 50,000 Nepali students studying in Australia. Our Foreign Minister Penny Wong likes to say that when Australia looks out into the world, we see ourselves in it, just as the world can see itself reflected in us. And I think that this is particularly true of the relationship between Australia and Nepal. But it's also important, of course, that for students heading to Australia, that they be well prepared for the inevitable challenges of a relocation to another country and another culture. And I thank you all, AAERI members, for addressing these issues too, for ensuring that Nepali students are clear-eyed about the inevitable ups and downs of making a new home in a new location. It is most important that you have in place mechanisms to support your students' mental health and well-being. And I thank you for continuing that engagement when students are onshore, but also when they come back here to Nepal and continuing to mentor them as they settle back into Nepal. We owe all of the Nepali students in Australia our particular efforts to ensure that they're properly prepared for their time in Australia and well supported on the ground. So thank you for offering counselling services, not just about courses and institutional options, but just as importantly, counselling the students to put in place solid support mechanisms, whether these be psychological, emotional or financial. Thank you for continuing your duty of care to your students. Since we last met, Australia's status as an international destination for study has strengthened further. Our government has undertaken efforts to improve opportunities for our international students. And importantly, these include those most significant post-study work grants for international students. These have increased since July to up to 6 years, and that's on top of the opportunity for students to study, to work while they're studying for periods of up to 24 hours per week. As you've heard me say before, international education is one of Australia's great success stories. We've educated more than 3 million international students from 190 countries in the past 20 years. These graduates have gone on to become leaders in politics, in business and societies across the globe, as well as here, of course, in Nepal. And I'm especially happy to see those who return home here to Nepal contributing to their own country's transformations. All the while they maintain links with Australia through active and influential alumni networks, such as we see in AAERI, the Association of Nepalese Alumni from Australia. And it's great that we've had the opportunity to hear from AAERI's president and underparty tonight. I wanted to close by encouraging the continued efforts of AAERI members to protect both the Nepali student brand and the Study Australia brand. The integrity of both students and education service providers and education agents is the core strength of Australia's international education sector. So I look forward to another year, my final year of active engagement with AAERI, with each one of you, to support our shared aspiration to give Nepali students the best possible experience of what I consider to be the best international student opportunity on the planet, and that is in Australia. And with that, I know that I place myself also at risk of being blocked by US, UK and Canadian colleagues like Ananda. So may the year ahead be highly successful for each one of you, for AAERI, and most importantly for our students, because their interests are at the heart of everything that we are all doing every day. Thank you, and